Here is a powerful, conviction-filled opening in the style of Ibrahim Traoré to captivate your audience and compel them to listen to the full speech. Silence makes you stronger. Here's how. Master it, listen to me and listen with your soul. Because what I'm about to tell you is not noise, it is not decoration, it is not entertainment, it is truth. And truth doesn't scream. It doesn't beg to be heard. Truth speaks in silence, and only the strong can hear it. We live in a world where everyone is shouting to be seen, to be known, to be relevant. But let me tell you something they don't want you to know. The loudest voice in the room is often the weakest. The strongest one, the most dangerous one, is the one who says nothing and still moves everything. You've been taught that silence means defeat, that if you don't respond, you lose, that if you're quiet, you're weak, but that is a lie. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power. Silence is strategy. Silence is control. When you learn how to hold it, when you learn how to master it, you become untouchable. So I'm asking you, I'm challenging you to stay with me. Don't just hear this speech. Let it confront you. Let it break something inside you. Let it awaken the power you've buried beneath all the noise. Because if you can learn to embrace silence, if you can learn to use it like a weapon, then there is nothing nothing this world can throw at you that you won't rise above. Stay with me, because by the time this speech ends, silence won't scare you anymore. It will strengthen you. Let me know if you want this tone continued through each key point expansion. They told you to react. They trained you to answer every insult, every challenge, every disrespect with noise. That's how they trap you, by pulling you into their rhythm. But the moment you stop responding, the moment you fall silent, everything changes. Silence, my brothers and sisters, is not retreat. It's resistance. It's the sign that you are no longer controlled by emotion, no longer driven by the need to prove anything to anyone. When you master your silence, you master yourself. It begins deep within you. Think about it. How often do you speak just to release pressure? How often do you respond just to feel like you're doing something? That is not strength. That is reaction. And reaction is how they control you. When you're quick to speak, you're easier to predict, easier to manipulate. But when you withhold your words, when you stay still, they don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, or how strong you truly are. Silence forces you to sit with your emotions, and that is where the battle begins. Can you sit with anger without acting on it? Can you sit with pain without screaming it? Can you sit with injustice and still move with discipline instead of impulse? That is power. That is where discipline is forged. Not in comfort, not in applause, but in silence, when nobody sees your struggle, and yet you still choose control. Every time you choose silence over chaos, you sharpen your blade. You learn to breathe instead of break. You gain a deeper understanding of your emotions and how to direct them, not suppress them. This isn't about being passive. This isn't about staying silent forever. This is about timing. It's about choosing the right moment, the right energy, the right direction, after asterisk you've thought, after asterisk you've centered yourself. Because the person who has learned to hold silence doesn't react. They respond with precision, with clarity, and with force that carries weight. But this kind of discipline doesn't come easily. It requires strength that most people never build. Because the world teaches the opposite. The world rewards loudness. The world praises the first one to speak, the first one to post, the first one to argue. But silence is for those who have nothing to prove and everything to protect. Their peace, their purpose, their power. When you stay silent, you realize just how many things didn't deserve your energy. You begin to see that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every insult needs your attention. You reserve your fire for what truly matters. There is a moment in life when you understand that silence is not about shutting down, but about turning inward, strengthening your foundation so that no wind, no storm, no voice from the outside can shake you. When people see you calm in the face of disrespect, they don't see weakness, they feel fear. They start to understand that you are operating from a level they can't touch, because you've made peace with yourself. That is what silence gives you, power over self and power over your path. The disciplined man does not move when pushed by others. He moves when he decides. He speaks when it matters. He acts when the time is right, because he is not ruled by impulse, but by principle. And those principles are formed in silence, not when everyone is watching, but when no one is. When you're alone with your doubts, your fears, your battles, and you refuse to let any of them control you, you rise from that silence not weaker, but stronger, because you've conquered the hardest enemy of all, yourself. So understand this: mastering silence is not about walking away from life. It's about walking into it fully prepared, fully centered, fully clear. You are no longer just reacting to life, you are commanding it. And when you reach that level of control, when you can hold your silence like a blade, there is nothing louder, nothing more dangerous than the power you carry within. Silence is the ground where strength is planted. Grow from it. Silence doesn't just protect you, it exposes them. When you stop reacting, people start revealing themselves. That's the truth they don't want you to know. You see, most people aren't honest. They wear layers, masks. They perform for attention, approval, or control. But they rely on your response to complete the performance. Without it, the act falls apart. Your silence becomes a test, a mirror. And the moment you stop feeding their need for reaction, their real face begins to show. Manipulators don't fear confrontation. They thrive on it. They fear being ignored. They feed off your emotions, your outbursts, your need to defend. That's their power. But when you fall silent, you deny them oxygen, you rob them of control, you leave them wrestling with their own words, their own behavior, and their own reflection. They start to stumble because your silence has become unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. You see, silence puts people on edge. It makes them uncomfortable because most people don't know how to sit with truth. They rely on noise to drown out guilt, to justify wrongs, to distract from their own insecurities. But silence confronts them. It says, I see you, I understand more than you think, and I don't even need to speak to prove it. That unnerves them. It strips away their illusions. They start trying harder to provoke you. They start exposing the very tactics they hoped to hide. That's how silence works. It reveals what noise hides. When you speak too soon, you often defend yourself from things that don't even deserve a defense. You rush to explain, to clarify, to clean up messes you didn't create. But when you're silent, you allow the mess to sit where it belongs, with the one who made it. You no longer carry the burden of proving who you are. You let them show the world who they are, and they will. Given enough time, silence makes liars contradict themselves. It makes bullies grow louder and more obvious. It makes manipulators panic. The moment you stop playing their game, they lose control over the outcome. That's what they hate most. Your silence forces them to confront their own behavior without a distraction. And if you stay silent long enough, you'll see them unravel, because they were never strong to begin with. They only looked strong when you were reacting. Silence doesn't just protect your energy, it refocuses it. Instead of wasting your voice on people who refuse to listen, you learn to observe. You learn to study, and in that stillness, you start seeing people for who they really are, not for who they pretend to be. You begin to realize who's real and who's performing, who respects you and who only wanted to manipulate your attention. And the most dangerous thing you can do to someone who thrives on control is stay silent, not out of fear, but out of mastery. Because silence from a place of power is not empty, it's full of awareness, full of restraint, full of intention. You speak when it's time to speak, and when you do, your words hit harder, they land with clarity. Because you weren't just reacting, you were watching, waiting, learning. That's the beauty of it. Silence teaches you more about others than words ever could. It sharpens your instincts. You begin to feel when someone is lying to you, even if they sound convincing. You begin to see when someone is trying to bait you, even if they smile in your face. You begin to sense the truth beneath their surface. All because you chose not to get caught in their noise. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't a reply. It's not a clapback, it's not a defense. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing and let your absence speak. Let your lack of response echo louder than any words could. That silence becomes your shield. It becomes your filter. It separates the real from the fake, the wise from the reckless, the stable from the unstable, and you learn that not everyone deserves your voice. Some people only exist to drain it. So hold your silence like a weapon. Let it work for you. Let it reveal what needs to be seen. Because when you stop talking, you start seeing, and what you see in that stillness will change everything. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it stands in the corner watching everything, saying nothing, and commanding the room without effort. That's the kind of presence silence gives you. It's not something you buy, and it's not something you fake. It's built from within, brick by brick, in moments when you choose not to respond, when you choose to listen before you speak, when you carry yourself with calm while others drown in noise. That's what separates those who are respected from those who are merely seen. Most people chase attention. They want to be noticed, liked, applauded. So they talk too much, they over-explain, they interrupt, they rush to be heard. But when you've truly built yourself, you don't chase validation. You become it. You speak when it matters. You speak when it's time, and when you do, people listen not because you're loud, but because your silence has taught them your words are valuable. Silence gives your voice weight. It makes people lean in when you finally decide to speak. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about control. You control your energy. You control your time. You don't move unless it's intentional. You don't speak unless it's necessary, and that restraint builds presence. It makes people wonder what you're thinking. It creates mystery, and mystery is power, because when they don't know your next move, they fear what it might be. You no longer have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to dominate the room to lead it. Your silence becomes your signal, strong, disciplined, unwavering. There is something unshakable about a person who can sit in silence without needing to fill it. Someone who doesn't need to be seen to feel worthy, who doesn't need to be heard to know they matter. That kind of presence is rare because it requires inner confidence. It requires stillness, and that stillness is earned. Not when life is easy, but when life is testing you. When insults fly and you don't flinch, when pressure builds and you remain calm, when others provoke you and you just smile. That is strength, that is presence, that is power. You see, silence trains your mind to observe instead of react. You notice the little things, you pick up on details others miss. You start understanding people on a different level. And with that understanding comes influence, not because you talk more, but because you know more. You begin to see patterns. You begin to see intentions. You become the one who knows when to step forward and when to let others destroy themselves with their own words. In a room full of noise, the one who says nothing often holds the most weight. Everyone else is trying to prove something. You're just watching. That intimidates people. They sense your discipline. They sense your distance. And they respect it, even if they don't say it, because deep down, people admire what they can't control. And silence makes you untouchable. You don't get pulled into gossip, drama, or distractions. You stay focused. You stay locked in, And that focus builds momentum, quietly, steadily, unstoppably. It's easy to speak. It's easy to post. It's easy to argue. But it takes strength to remain still. It takes wisdom to know when silence will say more than any words could. And when you reach that level, when your presence alone can shift a room, you've mastered a different kind of power. One that doesn't need permission, one that doesn't need praise, one that doesn't break under pressure. You begin to realize that real leaders don't lead by noise. They lead by energy, by awareness, by example. Their silence isn't absence, it's preparation, it's strategy, it's power being charged in the background. And when they finally move, it's not for attention, it's for impact. So if you want presence, stop trying to impress. Stop trying to be heard all the time, start listening more, start observing more, speak less but with more meaning. Let silence be your foundation. Because when the time comes and you decide to rise, your words won't need to be loud. They will carry the force of every quiet moment you endured, every insult you ignored, every storm you stood through without flinching. And that kind of voice, it doesn't echo, it stays. In this world full of distractions, silence is the doorway back to yourself. When life gets loud, when people are pulling you in every direction, when opinions, criticism, pressure, and noise drown your clarity, that's when silence becomes more than just peace. It becomes power because in the stillness you remember who you are, you remember what you stand for. You stop reacting to the world and start shaping your own. You see, most people live in reaction. They're constantly adjusting to what others say, what others do, how others move. They're pulled by noise, distracted by opinions, disconnected from themselves. That's why they're tired. That's why they're anxious. That's why they wake up every day with no direction, because they're listening to everything asterisk, except asterisk, their own inner voice. But silence changes that. It brings you face to face with yourself. It's uncomfortable at first, because it strips away the masks. It quiets the ego. It removes the noise you've used to avoid the truth. And in that moment, you meet the real you, the one who doesn't need to perform, the one who doesn't chase, the one who's always been waiting to lead. The strongest minds I've ever seen aren't the loudest, they're the ones that are rooted, centered, focused. They know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and who they're becoming, and they found that clarity in silence. Not in chaos, not in validation, but in solitude, because silence doesn't distract. It reveals what's broken. It reveals what matters. It reveals what's been ignored. And once you see clearly, you stop wasting energy on what doesn't serve you. When you build your life from silence, your steps are different. Your decisions come from alignment, not pressure. You move from purpose, not panic. You no longer rush to respond to every voice around you. You choose your path, even if no one claps for it. That's what silence gives you. It returns your power to choose, to act, to build something real without needing the world's permission. In that silence, your vision gets sharper. You start asking deeper questions. What do I really want? What is the life I'm building? Who do I need to become to live it? And suddenly, the noise that used to bother you, the drama, the gossip, the criticism, it becomes small. Not because it stopped, but because you grew. Because your silence turned into insight. Your stillness turned into strategy. And your mind became too focused to be shaken by anything trivial. There is a strength that comes from knowing you don't have to answer every voice. That you don't have to fight every battle, that you don't have to explain your path to people who are too busy running in circles. That kind of strength comes from silence, because only in silence can you hear your calling. Only in silence can you build the kind of focus that moves mountains quietly. No announcements, no applause, just pure, unstoppable discipline. People will try to shake you. They'll wonder why you're quiet. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. Let them talk. That's what happens when someone breaks free from the noise. They become threatening. Not because they're loud, but because they're no longer controlled. When they can't provoke you, they try to label you. But your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're not escaping the world, you're creating your own. And when it's time, the world will see what you've been building in the dark, because that's what silence is, it's preparation. It's reflection, it's foundation, and when the moment comes for you to rise, you won't need to shout. You won't need to explain. Your actions will speak for you. Your results will echo louder than any noise they ever made. The power you found in silence will carry you through every storm, every test, every moment where the world tries to pull you back into chaos. So, protect your silence, honor it, make space for it every day. Because in that stillness, your true strength is born, not the strength that bends for approval, but the kind that stands alone if it has to. The kind that leads without fear, the kind that listens before it speaks, moves with intention, and stays grounded no matter how loud the world gets. And when you master that silence, you no longer follow power. You become it.